physics or chemistry, and it just gets complicated on different level. But again, what I want to convey that we want you to prepare you for the upcoming challenges, and so that's why this course is there. So I will introduce myself. My name is Sandeep Kaladwankar. I'm from Department of Physics and Department of Bioscience and Bioengineering. My email ID is sandeepk@iitb.ac.in. My extension is 7706. In particular, I will be teaching this molecular and cellular biology module. So in today's class, we have two parts. The part one, we will discuss about the structure of the course, and the part two will discuss about the learning objective. And specifically, we'll have the introduction to biology. And I will give some examples where we can see that engineers and technology, along with biology, how all these things are interwoven with each other. So first of all, why you want to take this course? Basically we want to provide you good background in biological concepts and issues of societal impacts. Then in today's days, biology is influencing you in one or other way. So having some understanding of this subject will prepare you for the future. Then the combination of biology knowledge with your core engineering or physics or chemistry knowledge or mathematics, that will enhance the biomedical research very well. And overall, basically, this course will help you to understand and appreciate how biology, engineering and technologies are interwoven with each other. So this is basically course structure, and there are four instructors, including myself. So I will have 6 lectures. After me, Professor Shilaja Nair, she will continue. She will continue the different parts of the MCB module. Then after that, Professor Amrish Kunwar, he will teach you physical biology. And lastly, Professor Hari Verma, he will teach you biomedical engineering. So over here, it's crystal clear that you have to attend all lectures. It's a mandatory, and you have to basically register through the Zoom link for the D3 batch. So in order to pass this course, minimum 30% of marks has to be achieved, and then you can pass this course. So about the class timing and the handouts, video recording, the tutorial. So for the D3 classes, D3 division, the classes will be on Tuesdays and Fridays at 3:30 to 5 p.m. And tutorial slot will be X1, that is 2 to 2:55. So you should be getting the tutorial link via Microsoft Teams in a day or two. So the lectures will be conducted via Zoom. The tutorials will be conducted via Microsoft Teams. And for the tutorial, what would happen is there would be one TA, approximately 30 to 35 students. And that particular TA will revise the concept which has been taught during the week. So tomorrow, I mean, we should have a tutorial tomorrow, but then since this is the first class, so tomorrow tutorial will not happen. We will be having first tutorial in the next week. And over there, we might discuss 3 lectures together, revise it. And if some things are not clear during the class, if you don't get a time to clear your queries during the class, you can ask your TA to help it out during tutorial session. And apart from that, you can approach me via email, and upon mutual convenient time, we can discuss whatever queries are there. So I will post the lecture handouts and video recordings on the Moodle. So there are basically 3 different platforms: Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and Moodle. So with these 3 platforms, we will have the logistic for the all course. So this is your reference book for the MCB module. This is Campbell Biology, 10th edition, and you can basically get this book online, or you can get a hard print also. So just a minute. Recording has started, right? Okay. So these are the topics to be discussed in the this particular model. So I will focus on the 2 units, Unit 2 and Unit 3. So in Unit 2, mostly talk about the cell structure, and then it's a metabolic rate, respiration, photosynthesis, communication between cells, and cell cycles. So if you go through the book, then you can see that the book has 8 units, but from 8 units, I will be mostly focusing on Unit number 2 and Unit number 3. So Unit number 3, that deals with the genetics, and there we will discuss about Mendel's experiment, gene idea, then molecular basis of inheritance, flow of information, and regulation of gene expression. So in the tour of cell, basically we'll discuss about the different components of the cell and their functions. In the DNA is basically the DNA, which is deoxynucleic acid. So that is basically a molecule that carries the genetic information, and we'll learn how to basically how this message in DNA is decoded. Then in terms of metabolism, we will understand fundamental process that drives the life, particularly respiration, photosynthesis. So there is a lot to learn over here, and what the approach is basically not mugging things. I want you to remember things and not so there are a lot of vocabulary, a lot of terminology. We will basically deal with that, but I want to be absolutely clear that there should not be as such stress on the mugging. Now I will come to the second part of the lecture. In this basically part, I will introduce the biology, and we'll talk about how exactly engineering and technologies are interwoven with each other with the biology. So before going to the next slide, I mean, before we make this connection, I want you to basically understand this particular example of the aeroplane. So when you think about aeroplane, so basically I'm choosing this example because most of you have very technical understanding, and that way I can convey the message. And with this analogy, I will compare this analogy with the cell, and slowly we will get into the biology. So when we talk about aeroplane, its parts and function, there are numerous parts, and all these parts are essential. We cannot skip each. I mean, all the parts are very, very important, and these parts will have a peculiar function. Now, on the left side, what you see is a diagram of the modern passenger jet. And over here, what you see is there is a fuselage. Basically, that is the body of the passenger jet or body of the aeroplane that supports the structure. So the function of the fuselage is basically supporting the structure and holding things together and carry the payload. So mostly the passengers will be seated inside that fuselage, and then below there will be a lot of compartments for the baggage area, carrying the baggages. Then at the front, you will see there is a cockpit, and within the cockpit, there would be pilot and a lot of control and the command centers will be there. So with the control and commands, the pilot and co-pilot that will basically handle the plane, the main operation, how exactly it has to landed or it has to be taken off, and during the flight how to basically maintain the due course. So all those basically activities will be performed inside the cockpit. Then you have the wings to make it fly. Then there are different parts. Landing gears, engine, which is the critical. Without engine, you might not be able to get any thrust. So engine is one of the critical part. Then there is a landing gear. So the landing gear basically makes your ride smoother during the takeoff and landing of the aeroplane. So all these things are very, very important, and every part has its function. So most of you, you might have traveled through aeroplane. If not, then I just want you to let know that there are something called as life jackets, and these life jackets inside the plane, there will be, for each passenger there will be one life jacket, and that has to be used in the emergency situation. Let's say sometimes you land on the water. In that case, the life jacket will come in picture. But then these incidences are very rare. But sometimes accident happens, and during the accidents, you should be prepared. Similarly, like that, cell has this genetic information which might not be needed most of the times, but during accident, during something goes wrong inside cell, then there should be some kind of mechanism to prevent that accident or to overcome that accident. So we might think that the cell has a lot of parts, but each part has its own function. So that's why I want you to basically compare things. So again, the message over here is, just like aeroplane, cell has a lot of parts, and each part has its own particular function. So again, for the all these parts, they have their function, but then important factor over here is, apart from function, there should be a mutual coordination between these parts. Exactly like that, within the cell, you have the part, you have their function, but then all these functions will not work unless there is a mutual coordination between these parts inside the cell. So this is how this cell looks like. This is a typical animal cell, and what you see over here inside, the violet color, so that is basically called as nucleus. And within the nucleus, there is a chromatin, or you can say DNA. And this is basically covered with some kind of membrane. So within the nucleus, the genetic information is there, and that basically that genetic information is passed from the parents to the offspring. So this is extremely important. Then to basically support and to support this cell structure itself, there is a cell wall, and without cell wall, all these inside things will not hold together. The cell wall will be composed of many other things, mainly lipid and cholesterol or something like that. So, and then there are some proteins involved on the membrane that supports the structure. So inside cell, you have the nucleus, and in between nucleus and the cell wall, you have many other parts, or many other then you have the ribosomes, which are attached to the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and you have smooth endoplasmic reticulum. Then you have part which is called as mitochondria, lysosome, then other part microvilli. So in particular, mitochondria, it's a very important because that is supposed to be, it produces ATP, that is the energy coin of the cell. So all these parts are very, very important. And the main thing is, even though these parts are there, their functions are there, without their mutual coordination, the cell will not function. Again, when you think about biology, biology is basically vocabulary rich. There are a lot of terminologies, and you at a times you have to remember them, and without remembering, there is no as such understanding of each each particular system of the cell. So living systems work within the framework of the laws of physics and chemistry. So when we think about the cell, all the cell are basically mostly the cell parts. They mostly comprise 4 or 5 elements: carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, hydrogen. Then you have some the water molecules. Then apart from that, you have carbohydrates, lipids. So all these molecules are heavily contained with the carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and hydrogen, most of it. And apart from that, you have some zinc ions or phosphor. So many other things would be there, but quantity of carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, and hydrogen is very high compared to any other elements. So, and when you think about these elements, it will obey laws of physics, laws of chemistry. But the only thing is that the biomolecules, the protein, the ribosome, or any other, this parts, although you can consider that as a molecule, but these molecules are very, very large compared to let's say methane or ethane, but since they are large, sometimes it's very difficult to observe these laws, and one of the in the biology, we want to understand how this particular protein functions, and how does that help to overcome particular let's say particular deficiency. So across the globe, the efforts are made on how to teach biology, and how to basically bring out the beauty of life, then understanding the benefits of understanding how they work, and challenges associated with the studies. So one of the when you think about biology, you will ask this question again and again: what is the exact life? I mean, what is the life means? How do we define it? Can we define first things? Can we define it? If we define it, to what extent we can define it? What things, terminologies, or themes will be needed to explain the life? So here, we are basically trying to understand whether the intelligence, that will intelligence be part of life? Can be basically only, let's say somebody has only intelligence, can we say that that's a life? So here, this is the Turing test. So this is named after scientist Alan Turing. So in this particular experiment, what happens is there are 3 compartments: compartment A, compartment B, compartment C. In compartment A, there is a computer. In compartment B, there is a human being, and in compartment C, there is a human being. So the compartment A and compartment B, they are hidden behind screen, and the human standing in compartment C doesn't know where is the computer, in which compartment is the computer, and which compartment is the human being. So what happens is this human being in the compartment C that will ask question, and these questions will be passed in these compartments. You will get the answers from machine, or you can say computer. The computer has its artificial, let's say, artificial intelligence, and you will get the answer. Now you will get the answer from both. So computer and human being. But then the biggest question over here is, can person sitting in the compartment C guess who has responded, whether it's a computer or whether it's a human being? So that may be not possible. And in 70% of cases, the machines will answer the question. So it's a very extremely difficult. So again, when we think about artificial intelligence, I'm giving you some different examples over here, and recently how basically the artificial intelligence is used. So the first picture is basically there is a match between human and artificial intelligence program, and they are basically playing ancient Chinese game, and in this particular game, the AI program is beating human. Then some of you might be playing chess, and you might be knowing about this chess engine that is called as Stockfish, which is one of the best, and it's based on the artificial intelligence. So again, this Stockfish, even though it's artificial, the whole setup is based on the artificial intelligence, and it can beat human being. But they have some intelligence, but then whether that will comprise the life, or just having the intelligence, one can say there is life exists for this artificial intelligence enabled engines. So here is one more example. This particular example is of the xenobots. It's a recent study, and the scientists in the Harvard, what they claim that this C-shaped, basically these are the robots C-shaped, and the particles over here, they are basically stem cells. So this xenobots can pile up this particular particles into a single pile also through the movement, and that may be helpful for the stem cell regeneration. So over here, this scientists claim that even though these xenobots, they are AI design or artificial intelligence design, and they can reproduce, but then their reproduction is little different than the animal or plant. So, but then they claim that this is a different kind of reproduction. But so whether this intelligence will comprise or only intelligence, and the main question is only intelligence can be classified or considered as a life. And no, I mean only intelligence cannot be basically part of life, or we cannot consider that as a life. But then there are other things we have to consider. So what are the other things? So over here, we are basically thinking about what other things comprise of the life, and over here we can think that ability to respond to environment, that would be a part of life or theme of life. So in this particular figure, what you see is this is a Venus flytrap. It's a plant which is carnivorous. And what happens is, the fly comes inside, and then the flap basically closes. This closes, and then the fly will get trapped inside this leaf, and it will decompose eventually, and it will have nutrients, and those nutrients will be used by Venus flytrap for their growth. So the main idea over here is this Venus flytrap is responding towards the environment, and this is the the responding to the environmental stimulus is a part of life, or it's one of the compromising factor of the life. Then this is one more example. Here what you see is it's a moth which is sitting on the nectar, and nectar has the chemical energy. That chemical energy is getting converted into the different motions of this moth, and some part of the energy will get get lost. But the main point over here is basically the moth is able to respond to the environment. So again, over here, what we want to understand is life, basically something called life, or how do we define life. So when we define life, then that particular organism or that particular object should have ability to respond to the environment. Then there is one more factor here we have to consider, whether it could have growth and development. In this picture, what you see is there is a sapling which is growing, and so basically there is a growth and development. So when you plant any sapling and you provide proper nutrients, it will grow, and the growth will have it's a different things. So basically there would be roots, there would be stem, then you have the leaves, and then there could be fruits, depending upon what kind of plant it is. But the idea over here is the sapling has some information inside it, but until and unless you don't provide the proper nutrients, it is as good as dead. But once you provide the nutrients, proper nutrients, it becomes alive, it has a life. And this basically the sapling has information inherited by the DNA, which is inside this inside the cell of the sapling. And one of the important aspect is whether the organism can reproduce. Reproduction is not the only criteria. The organism should reproduce their own kind. So here you can see the giraffe, and this is baby giraffe. So basically that particular organism should have their offspring as their own kind. There should not be as such crisscross. So that's also one of the important aspect of the life. Just a minute. And one more, important, I mean, there are different aspects, and one of the other aspect of the life is regulation. Over here, what you see is the jackrabbit, and you can see these are the lobes, ear lobes, and with that ear lobes, it can hear from the long distance, and this particular organ, ear of the jackrabbit, it is basically regulated with the blood flow through the vessels, and that basically it adjusts the heat exchanges with the surrounding air, and it can respond towards the environment. So so basically with the blood flow through these ears, this is the regulation. And maybe because of that, one of the thing over here is jackrabbit maintains constant body temperature, and that is maintained, that the body temperature is basically maintained through the blood flow. And if someone has to maintain that blood flow, you can see this lobes are completely exposed, but still it has to adjust to the surroundings, and it has to regulate that particular body temperature. And probably that could be, reason to regulate the body temperature. That could be a reason why the jackrabbit has large earlobes, and this is basically part of the regulation. Then one aspect is ability to adapt. What does that mean? So you might have seen, simple example, you might have seen chameleon, and the chameleon basically adapts to its surrounding and tries to camouflage itself according to its surrounding, and it's very hard to recognize where is this chameleon. Similarly, this is the example of the seahorse, and in this particular instance, it is basically acquiring similar color to its surrounding, and with that, it is it feels safe, and it cannot be get hunt easily. So this is part of the adaptation, and this adaptation is evolved over many generations. It doesn't happen in 1 or 2 generations. It requires many generations. So individual which inherit these traits that best suit the environment, and they survive, and others will perish. Okay, this is one of the very elegant and beautiful aspect of the life, order. Over here, what you see is the sunflower, center of the sunflower, and inside you see the structure is highly ordered, and you might be able to see some rings at the center. And when you talk about the order, and when you talk about the some kind of ratio, how many basically how many successive seeds are here, that is basically followed with the Fibonacci series. And I'm sure that you know the Fibonacci numbers or Fibonacci series. So it goes from 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. Idea is very simple. What you do is you sum the previous 2 numbers starting from 0, 1. And the third number will be basically sum of the first 2 numbers, previous 2 numbers. So when you look into this pattern, when you look into this order inside this sunflower, you will find a golden ratio of 1.618 also. So basically, that is basically shows there is some kind of order in between successive seeds also. So this kind of pattern or this kind of order can be seen in other fruits or vegetables. Some of the examples are pineapple, where you can see the scales are very peculiar shape, and you can see that it could be in diagonal manner. And you have cauliflower, broccoli. If you look into the stem, how they grow, and each each part is very symmetric, you can say. So there is a definitely order in the life. So when you think about how do you recognize life or how do you define life, all this aspect, all these themes will come together. So basically, there should be order, there should be evolutionary adaptation, there should be regulation, there should be reproduction. It should basically, that object should respond to the environment. It should have growth and development during the life, and it should process the energy. So the one form of energy should get converted into other forms. So basically, when we eat, again, you can see that eating is has the chemical energy. whatever food has the chemical energy, and that chemical energy is getting converted into many activities, walking, running, thinking, all whatever you do that requires energy. So when you think about how do you recognize the life, all these aspects or themes comes in picture. So when you on the larger scale, when you want to think about themes, this is what there should be organization, there should be information, there should be energy and matter, interaction and evolution. So we'll learn these particular themes. We'll discuss and we'll learn themes of life one by one in subsequent examples. So first we will discuss the theme organization. So here in this particular example, what you see is at the left top corner, it's a biosphere, and this is biosphere, basically Earth, and it on the Earth you can see life exists everywhere, on land, in the water, in the atmosphere, several up to several kilometers high. You might be able to see some bacteria, and also and then in sediments, some extreme environment, you will be able to see this life, and this is basically called as biosphere. And within biosphere there could be ecosystem, and so the ecosystem, when you think about the ecosystem, it has all living systems in that particular area, and along with the living systems, you will have non-living components. For example, it could have land, water, gases. So that is called as an ecosystem. And within the ecosystem, you will have communities. So in particularly in community, you will find that there will be different kinds of animals, organisms, that may include tree, animals, microbes, and each types, the tree or animal, there will be several species. That is called as a community. And within community, there is a population of particular species. Over here, we are thinking about, let's say, about trees, and trees will have different population. And within that population of tree, you will find a single organism. So here there could be, let's say, thousands and thousands of trees, and I'm just picking one tree out of this population, and that would be treated as an organism. And with that, with that particular organism, again, that would be it will have different organs and organ system. For example, the tree will have stems, bark, root, leaves, flower, fruits, and many other parts would be there, many other organs would be there. And until this point, you might be able to observe all those things with the naked eye, the organs, until organ. But then if you want to understand the organ, then you want to see this organ through microscope, and the microscope will reveal the structure of the organ, and within the organ you might find that there are different tissues. So in this basically figure, which is on the right top, what you see, there are there is a right part and left part. So the right part over here, which is a darker green, you can say, it is basically with least you can say zoomed in a little bit, and then on the left you can see it is zoomed in. So basically this is the low magnification and this is the high magnification. So with the high magnification, you might be able to see the structure of the tissue, and with the low magnification, you might be able to see just a little bit about the tissue. You might not be able to distinguish between different tissues. And within that tissue, there will be different cells over here. And within the cell, there would be different organelles. In particular, over here, we have chloroplast. And within the chloroplast, within the organelle, there are different molecules. And this is basically one chloroplast molecule. So this is, hierarchy. And when you think about the life, when you think about the organization, the organization is kind of hierarchical. And it's, on minuscule, it starts with the molecule and it basically goes back to the community, ecosystem, and biosphere. So again, when you think about molecules are made of atoms, and these atoms are made of, again, there will be subdivision to the atoms and all those things, but then there is definitely, some kind of organization. And when you think about life, this all molecules should come together. They should basically evolve. They should have, particular structure as organelle, and that would further develop into cells. So basically, going backward, I'm trying to tell you, going backward. So yeah. So this is basically about the organization. Then the next theme is for the life. It's about information. So here, what you see is there is a sperm cell and there is an egg cell. Basically, they fuse together, and basically after fusion, you will see there is a fertilized egg. And this fertilized egg will have the information from both parents, and that particular information is carried from the DNA. The sperm cell will have a DNA from the paternal side, and the egg cell will have DNA from the maternal side. And in the fertilized egg, all this information is further combined together, and with that you will have the embryo, and with that it will basically, the single DNA will get multiple copies, and then each organ, there would be development into each organ, and eventually that would have different parts. Then it would grow into a baby, and baby will have a distinct feature, just like the parents. In this particular example, the baby has a nose, eyes, hairs, ears, hand, leg, stomach, chest, bones. So all those things which you see in parents, those things will be acquired in the offspring. So this is about the information. So again, the information is carried by the DNA. Here we have one more example about the information, and this example particularly talks about lens cells, and this basically lens in the eye. They are tightly packed with protein, transparent protein called crystalline. This is how basically the lens cell looks like. And but then the question is, how do we know? I mean, how does that this particular structure should evolve? Where is this information coming from? That information basically comes from the, again, DNA, or you can say gene. So the question is, how do the lens cell make the crystalline proteins? That information will be on the gene, or so the DNA, and then DNA is a very large molecule, and you can subdivide that into genes, and part of the DNA will be considered as a gene, depending upon whether it has capability to reproduce a protein or some other biomolecule. It might have some regulatory function, and that we will discuss in different chapters or different lectures in detail. So when you think about DNA, DNA has these codes. So basically, these are nucleotides. You can see there is a letter A, C, C, A, C, C, G, A, G, T. And the DNA over here, what you see is it's a double helix. It has double strand, and it is in the helical structure. So double strand is basically this is one strand, and the other is complementary strand. So this DNA, either of this strand, it has the information, and that information is being transcribed with mRNA. And whatever the information is here, on the mRNA, that would get